Good morning, gang. Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Hey, good morning, Sharon. Glad you are here. Hope you're having a great week. Morning, Bonnie. Hope you're doing well. Hope it's a good day. Good morning, Amy. Glad to see you're here. Hope you're doing good. Morning, Yvette. Hi, Donna. Good morning. Good day here. Oh, that's great. Good morning, John. Hey, Sherry Ladd. Good morning, Irene. First, I want to apologize to everybody for the picture that Yvette posted about my. Yeah, she can hear me in the other room. So yeah, the picture that Yvette posted as our staff meeting. That depiction should never be in circulation of me. Apparently I was having a seizure or something. I don't know what was happening, but anyway, so my apologies all around. Uh, Good morning, Irene. I'm glad you're here. A little Hard Rock Cafe mug this morning. Little little good times, and going to be part of what we're talking about today is a little bit of good times. How is everyone? A reminder: tomorrow is going to be our Q&A. That we're gonna tomorrow. I'm not coming with anything super prepared tomorrow. If you don't want to, if you are too shy to ask your question in the chat, you can message it to me ahead of time. That's one of the reasons I'm telling you, is that if you want to just you can do it on Facebook Messenger, send it to me, and I'll answer. I'll ask your question anonymously. How like secret postcardy is that? Like that. Um, so that's that. Even that's an option. So anyway, or we'll just chat. Like we'll say good morning to people, and in fact, come on, it was a great picture. It was a scary picture. I don't know what was happening to me at that moment. Ah, gosh, if you haven't seen it, we had our staff meeting yesterday, and that was kind to grant to bring some cake, and Bonnie brought a pie, and I have more goodness this morning. It is a joy to have my birthday week this week for sure. So, all right, let's get going because this is part. I'm already leaking into part of what I want to talk about this morning. So, good morning, everybody. It is the second day of June. The on this 2021 of a Wednesday. Tomorrow is the third. That's kind of how it goes, two, then three. Which is also my birthday. So it's been, and it's already this year. I didn't even expect this, but it's turned into a birthday week celebration, which I'm not going to lie, I'm going to take it. That and that Yesterday, as I said, we had a cake, and Bonnie brought a pie, and I had some pie last night. So good. Strawberry rhubarb, my favorite. I don't know how you knew, but I'm appreciative. This morning, Deb Votrin came by. I didn't see Deb come in this morning yet, but Deb Votrin came by and brought one of these babies from a place called one of my favorite little places in town in Fall River is the Little Portuguese Bakery down on Pleasant Street, Botello's. It is the coolest little place. It is like the most like kind of the one of the quickest ways you can be transported to someplace else without actually like getting on an airplane or someplace that feels you walk in and it just has a European feel, and everybody there is, it's largely a Portuguese bakery, and a little espresso, and man, it's good. It's good, and it's just a great experience. It's a great place, and they do this. Can you believe that? Does that not look fantastic? So let me check for you. Let me see how. Oh my God. If I fall over from diabetic coma, you'll know why. Oh my land, that was so good. So today, what I want to talk about, happiness as part of what this is, what we're all leading up to here. I want to talk about this whole notion of happiness and joy. And now there's a distinction between happiness and joy, but before we get into that, and even last night, because it seems like this season is kind of busting loose with it right now. That last night I've seen 2 or 3 different people who had prom pictures up. Sophia Fernandez had her prom pictures up. It was prom night last night, and she was looking beautiful, but on all the different, the guys looking handsome, and everybody just dressed to the nines. And after this year, kind of the special feel of all of that, and the smiles and the joys of it. It really just struck me as all of that was coming to bear. And so I want to talk about this joy, this happiness that is a real experience we get to have. It is one of the great gifts, and that in fact the part of this whole life is about being opened to this joy and happiness as it breaks fruit. Now, happiness and joy can be different things, and maybe we'll touch on that a little bit, but I want us to really say that, begin to lean into this notion that there are these things in our lives which bring us happiness, which bring us joy. And the challenge is, and I think we all know the challenge, that particularly after this last year, the challenge is that we often associate these end up being really associated with kind of conditional things, like I have a Botello's pastry, which is glorious, and if I don't, when the day comes that there isn't any more of this, which is going to be like 10 minutes after this live stream is done, that when there isn't any more of this, I'll be sad because there is no more pastry. That we often think of it in these terms of like, if I have these things, then these things will provide me happiness. If I don't have certain things, if I'm on my way to the prom, I'll be happy. If I'm not on my way to the prom, I won't be happy. And that these conditions of life, and that the conditional, and this is the nature of the world. And this is the nature of the thought of the world. I have coffee, I will be happy. I love you. But if I don't have coffee, I won't be happy. I'll be grumpy in the morning. I won't be able to. So yeah, I just need a little coffee after the pastry. It's so good. Oh, so good. Yes, these enjoyments, these pleasures that we're given, that these opportunities to have, but the conditional nature of them in the world, right? This is the great thing of what it is to be alive, that we have these conditions on these things, that we don't know what. If we have coffee, we're happy. If we don't have coffee, we have pastry. We don't have pastry. We go to the prom, and not go to the prom. All of those, and that extrapolates out through our whole life. And this, I will submit to you, is the problem that Jesus comes to solve. This is the problem that Jesus comes to solve. And I know you might think, wait a minute, Jesus comes to give me more pastry? Like, Jesus is the great barista in the sky, the kind of the Santa Claus Jesus, there's plenty of temptations for all of us to treat God like Santa Claus. Dear dear Jesus, please bring me a puppy. That we how often our prayer life, how often our conversations with God, slide into this kind of like, Santa Claus Jesus of that, just bring me the presents that I want and don't bring me the presents I don't want. And for goodness sakes, keep away the lump of coal and I'll be a good boy. Except I think we all discover pretty quickly in life that that's not actually the nature of the world. And it's not actually how we're wired or how and even if it is how things kind of seem to work, even if it were that way, it would not serve us well. We would be miserable people. And not just miserable in terms of like we'd be unhappy, but we'd be horrible people. We would, by any measure, we would be grappling for all the things that we wanted to get. We'd grapple for this, grapple for that. We'd try and get more for us and nothing for anyone else. That we'd be just trying to stock up our our little hoard of loot and good things and happy times, like Smog the dragon out of The Hobbit, who just sits on his pile of gold and does nothing with it. We were just spend our lives trying to accumulate these things. So that the nature of the world and the nature of this, I have my coffee, I have my pastry, I get to go to the prom, these conditional realities and the happiness of them leads us to the confrontation with either we leap into that nature of the world, which is we're kind of hardwired to do, or not even hardwired, but we're certainly tempted to do. We certainly have the predilection to do it, kind of like what I call puppy greed. If you've ever seen two dogs playing with a toy and then another dog goes over and gets the other toy, even though the other dog there's two toys, there's two dogs, the other dog wants the toy that the other dog has. That kind of bestial sense is kind of a part of us too. That there's this sense of like, oh, well, it must be better than the one I got, and that's all linked into the sense of our happiness. And yet here we come along with the Apostle Paul, who's breaking open this idea, and he's trying to break it open to his idea to the church in Rome, and so remember, Paul's writing this stuff from jail. So I mean, this is one of the things that always impresses me about Paul is that he's writing stuff, and that the conditions of his own human person are just so harsh, and yet he's coming up with some of these pearls of illumination of what it is that Christ brings us to in this world, and what it is that is calling us to in this reality. And he says he writes this. It's the beginning of the 12th chapter of his letter to the church in Rome. He says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed in the renewing of your mind, and that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." Now, that's a little gormy, I grant you. But this whole sense of do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed. That word is you probably know it. You probably even use that word in Greek. Is that this word of metamorphosis, that we might be transformed in our lives, that we might be transformed. Catch this, for the purpose. What are we being transformed for? We're being transformed so that then we'll be able to learn and know God's will for us. This is a different translation of that last line. That you'll be able to learn and know God's will for us, which is good and pleasing and perfect. That we might know the good and the pleasing and the perfect. Gosh, what is more good and pleasing and perfect than have a coffee? Then what is more perfect and pleasing than Bocello's pastry? Thank you, Deb Votrin. And that what is more perfect and pleasing than going to the prom? And all the promise and the wonder and the beauty of it. Like, what more like that? But But what about happens when we don't have coffee and we don't have pastry and we don't go to the prom? But that we might learn to know God's will for us, which is good and pleasing and perfect. You see, this is the thing. In the Orthodox Church, they spend they have 11 appearances. 11 appearances of the Christ after the resurrection. And they repeat these again and again and again. That actually is, as a part of the liturgy, the divine liturgy, they repeat in particular services, they repeat the 11 appearances of Jesus in the world. Now, you can make the case that what they're trying to do. Trust me, I'm going to bring this all together. Stay with me. That what they're trying to do, what you think they're up to, is this notion that they are trying to prove to the world that Jesus appeared. See, there were 500 people. See, he came to them through the locked door. See, Thomas put his hand in his side. But that's not really what the recurring invitation to bear the experience and bearing witness to the resurrection of the Christ in the world is. That's not the point. It's not about proving that Jesus rose from the dead. That's not they don't care about that. The point of what they're driving at when they come back again and again and again to the 11 occurrences of Jesus appearing after the resurrection is that they are hearkening the church back, they're hearkening back in worship to the experience of that which was dead becoming alive and that which was broken being healed. The experience of knowing Jesus the Christ in the world. The experience of coming into true joy and true happiness. The experience of not being conformed to a world that wants to break things apart and control it and have some and not have some, but to have the experience of knowing, of learning God's will in this world and be always being plugged into it. Whether you have coffee, whether you have pastry, or whether you're on the way to the prom, or whether you're headed to your mom's bedside, or whether you're headed to a memorial, or whether you are yourself afflicted, or whether you are alone. You see this? It is this continued insistence of the presence of the resurrection that is and always is present, that is and always is there, that is and always is working in our lives, that is here whether I have coffee or not. Now, that doesn't mean I'm always going to be in a good mood. It doesn't mean you're always going to be in a good mood. But it does mean that is always the nature of the world. And that what Paul's driving at to the church in Rome is that don't be conformed to the world. Don't bend yourself to this world where there's, I have some or I don't have some, and as a result of having some, I'm happy, and as a result of not having some, I'm not happy. I'm with friends, I'm not with friends. That all of that conditional reality is actually, and again, it's not to say that any of those things are bad, but it's that the world will conform us in such a way that we will turn into, because our wants and our desires are infinite, because our wants and desires are, there's always another shiny thing, there's always something else, will bend us into a Smog the Dragon. It will contort us into grabbling all of the things that are ours and to make sure that we have the things that are ours and that we collect enough for ourselves. That the world will conform us, the world will contort us. But the invitation in this, the invitation of seeing again and again and again the resurrection, of seeing again and again and again the experience of new life, the experience of being with Christ Jesus, the experience of being with God, the experience of being in that relationship, the experience of that relationship. When the early Congregationalists began nearly 500 years ago, when they started out trying to define what it was when they called themselves separatists, when they stepped away from the Anglican Church of England 500 years ago and they said, you know what, this is just too corrupt, it's not working. What they did was they stripped everything down. They took out the icons, they took out the incense, they took out the funny hats, they took out the shiny robes, they stripped it all down, and they said, you know what? You know what's the core of this thing? Is the Word of God, is Bible. And the reason that Bible was the core of it for them, and I think is still the core of it for what we discover to go forward as the entire Protestant movement, is that because it's there that we end up having a little bit of experience of God. It's there that when we spend some time in the Word, we deconform ourselves. We right ourselves. We with our bended over spines of the weight of the world that is trying to conform us to bear its burden, we stand up straighter and we have the experience of being face to face with God. Max Lucado says, reading the Bible can be like meeting someone you don't know who oddly, somehow, seems to know you deeply. It's uncanny. So this whole thing isn't this idea of just a way to kind of get you to read more Bible. I'm actually using that part as an example of what it means to submit ourselves to the disciplines of the church. There's lots of them. Reading Bible is one of them. But the reason we submit ourselves to the disciplines, the reason we spend time in the Word, the reason we come to these things is so that we're not conformed to the world, but we're transformed and that in that transformation we then can go out and live out of that. And that we can know joy whether or not our cup is full or empty. We can know joy whether or not we have a glorious pastry over here that I'm very excited about. We can know joy whether or not we are on the way to the prom, or we might not have a date that night. That the invitation to these days is that we might know the holy fire. Helen Keller says, joy is the holy fire that keeps our purpose warm and our intelligence aglow. Joy shall be reflected in all things. How is joy reflected in all things? To a woman who's never seen a sunrise, to a woman who's never heard a song, to a woman that's never spoken with the great clarity of life. The metamorphosis that Paul is inviting us to, that chrysalis to butterfly experience that he points us to, is not through us being educated right and having the right points of doctrine. It is not about it is not even about necessarily having the right actions, but doing all the right things in our lives. But it is about the right relationship. And it's about that relationship, the way that relationship bends us away from the insistent conformity of the world and bends us towards the beauty and the wonder and the joy that is embedded in all things of life. We'll try to rationalize these away. We'll try to find a point for them, but in the end of the day, we are born for things that are outside of this world, and we are born for things that are beyond this world. We are born for more beauty, for more grace. Aquinas says, there is within every soul, a thirst for happiness and meaning. It's my invitation today that you deepen that relationship. so that you might be able to see and know and conform yourself not to the world, but be molded and shaped and moved and drawn towards the one who made you, to be and holy and wonderfully made, to know the joy that you were built for, that you were built for joy, and that you might be able to step into that regardless of your coffee cup being full or your pastry box being empty or your prom date showing up on time. It is the wonders and beauties of the world. And the thing is that it's not simply that this negation thing that we have to not conform ourselves to the world, but it is when we are in this relationship, when we spend our time with God, when we see when we have the experience of being with Jesus, when we have the experience of being with the one who made us, we have the experience of connection that flows into us and all things, when we have that experience of the resurrection, and that we can live from that place, that the coffee tastes so much better, that the beauty of the good things are glorified in them, and that the wonder and the grace and all of life takes on a beauty and a sense and a wonder that is undoubtedly tinged with sadness, but at its core has no lack, has no emptiness, has no loss to it. I want to end you with this morning. This is from Anne Morrow Lindbergh. Anne Morrow Lindbergh complains at the lack of awareness, which caused her to miss so much of the beauty around her. She missed it, and she writes about it this way: the space is scribbled on. The time has been filed. There are so few empty pages in my engagement pad, or empty days in the days, or empty rooms in my life. Too many activities and people and things, too many worthwhile activities and interesting people. For it is not merely the trivial which clutters our lives, but the important as well. Let friends yourself be conformed not to the world, to the very important things, or to even the mundane things. Do not let the world bend you into this sense of lack or this sense of not knowing. But spend time, whether it is through Bible, through prayer, whatever, with the one who made you. Spend time with Christ Jesus. Spend time with the resurrection, the resurrected Christ, again and again and again and again. And that in doing so, there is a way in which the mercies of God come to turn your life, and in Paul's words, into a living sacrifice. That's our hope. And it's not just our hope, it's our promise. So I hope you'll step into that a little bit today, and you'll know some beauty, you'll know some joy, you'll know a good cup of coffee, and you will dedicate yourself to its appreciation. You will know a beautiful pastry, and you will appreciate its deliciousness. And you know what? And maybe too, you'll appreciate its giving. I am so very thankful for all of you on this journey, for all of you that have been a part, that continue to be a part of 1111, for every one of you that is here, and what we are on to and on about. I am grateful for you, and that you are a joy to me. All right, friends, tomorrow is it's my birthday. It's also our day that we're gonna have a Q&A. You're gonna have a chance to ask some questions. I'll ask some questions. We'll have a conversation. If you can figure it, get someplace where you can be with a keyboard and you can chat back, and we'll have a chance. And if you really can't stand to ask your question on the chat, message it to me, and I'll come up with I'll answer it anonymously. It'll be very mysterious. All right, friends. I hope have a great day and have a beautiful. Enjoy the beauty of this day and have joy in it. Peace and grace, my friends.